Well, hello everyone. This is Sevilla I Love. And here we are on this channel getting back to living and loving life again after a major life-altering loss. Now, I'm a therapist with over 20 years of experience, and I'm a widow. And I've also had a ridiculous amount of loss by an early age. And so I work as a grief and loss specialist. Now, on this channel, we talk about a lot of different topics, and I invite you to explore all the different ones on this channel. And you can go and subscribe, please, if you would like to, as this helps this channel to grow and for the help to reach other people. I'm going to talk to you tonight about change. This is really important because this is the number one thing that people are afraid of is change, even under normal circumstances. When you've had a major life-altering loss, such as being widowed, everything that you knew about yourself, the world around you, and the context of your life has been altered forever. Your expectations for even the next day, let alone 10 years from now, have been changed forever. It's been taken from you, stolen from you, ripped away. Maybe you feel like it was, God's plan, but however it is that you look at that loss, the reality is that here you are. You are here without your person. And now, what do you do? And how do you know, really truly know when you're ready for change, when your heart's still hurting, when you're still angry, or you're still sad, or you still cry yourself to sleep at night? How do you make sense of all the complicated emotions that you may be experiencing? And be able to make sense of, I'm ready for something different. How do you know? And we're going to talk about that tonight. I'm going to discuss, let's see, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 different ways that you can know and be able to recognize what stage of change that you're in, and if you're ready really to move forward. And I'm not just talking about relationships, I'm talking about anything, okay? So in the first stage, stage number 1, you're not even thinking about things being different. You can't imagine your life going on without your beloved. You can't imagine a new place to live. You can't imagine a new partner. You can't imagine a new job or even changing anything in the bedroom or the living room or anything else. Your life is basically in a capsule. And if you don't change anything, then maybe, just maybe you can keep them close. Maybe we'll ask ourselves, and not consciously, but subconsciously, this becomes the action. If I hurt deeply enough, if I cry hard enough, if I stare out at the abyss long enough, I'll feel closer to them. Because sometimes we'd rather sit in our pain and our loneliness and the sense of utter destruction to our lives than we would to accept that there may be life beyond this. Because we imagine if there's life beyond this, that means it's without them. And I want to propose to you that making a change does not mean leaving them behind. I'm going to tell you why. They're physically gone from this earth. And you, my friend, are still here. You're still here. You're still here. There's still purpose in your life. And even if you don't know what that is right now, you can't conceive of having one without them. Therein, within you, it exists. And just like the sun that's behind the clouds, you know it's there. Even though it's been raining and cloudy for 2 months, like it's been here in Alaska, I don't think I would recognize the sun if it popped out. It's been so dark for so long. And that often is what our lives feel like. This is a stage we call pre-contemplation. Okay, and if you're in that stage and you're still watching this video, I hope you hang on with me, okay? I want you to go along with me, even if it doesn't feel exactly right. But listen. So the next stage that you may potentially be able to move into, and you know you're in that area, is when you start getting curious. Now, curiosity might look like you watching this video right now. Curiosity might be thinking of a relative who had moved on and done something different after their beloved had died. It might be looking at the life of someone who didn't move on after their beloved died and stayed stuck walking around their house for the rest of their lives, and then until eventually 20 years later they died alone. Maybe you are looking at old hobbies you used to have. Maybe you're looking on the internet at different homes. Gosh, what would it be like to own a condo on the beach? I had an old friend. Maybe I'd like to look them up. I wonder whatever happened to that person. You start getting curious about things that didn't exist fully within the relationship that you had when your spouse was alive. There's a curiosity of life that starts to spark up in you. And what I want to say is, please don't crush that. Because oftentimes when we start to get curious, we will crush it down with our grief because we feel like if we start to imagine a life without them, we're going to lose them. And I come from a very strong belief that you never lose them fully. In the physical form, yes. But the love that you had, the bond that you shared, is eternal. It's an energetic bond between the two of you, and energy does not die. That is a fact. Energy does not die. And even when somebody dies, they can even measure a little bit of difference in the weight of the body after a person dies. There's so many proofs and evidences that we continue on after this life, and I invite you to investigate that. Just go searching, and if you find something that sounds utterly ridiculous, keep looking until you find something that feels like it fits or it inspires you in some way. But that's going to help to feed your curiosity about the what ifs and the possibilities that life may still hold for you. Because your grief, although is a sign of your love for them, David Kessler likes to say, David Kessler is a world expert on grief, says that your grief is not a badge of honor. It's not a badge of honor. What is then? Your love for them is your badge of honor. Your love, your joy for them, that which is real cannot be destroyed. And that's from a book called A Course in Miracles. That which is real cannot be destroyed. All things have an energy in them. And if all things have an energy in them, when the thing is destroyed, what happens to the energy? It transforms into something else. But it doesn't cease to exist. So allow that potential movement and shift into the consecration of your love, rather than all of your focus being on the loss and the grief. Because they're both true. They're both true. And although they will exist all the rest of your life together, which one you focus on will determine your next steps. Now, if you need to sit here in the depth of the darkness of the grief, then you do that by all means. It depends on where you're at in your loss. But you will stay here. As Eckhart Tolle, who's a famous spiritual teacher and world-renowned best-selling author, and I highly recommend searching out his work as well. Eckhart Tolle, which is, he wrote The Power of Now. Highly recommend that. That we're going to suffer until we don't need to suffer anymore. When we no longer need the suffering. When you no longer identify your pain with your love. Because your pain is going to exist. But it doesn't have to be the focus. When you're ready to start moving into change. When you're ready to have this curiosity. So this is your stage of contemplation. Okay? So you're thinking about jobs. What are my unmet needs? I mean, what do I want in life? What have I never gotten to do? Maybe you wanted to travel. Maybe you always wanted to go to Ireland and your husband liked taking trips and didn't want to leave the country. Right? Maybe you loved the beach and your wife wanted to go to ski trips to Alaska. So you made compromises in the relationship so you could be married, so you could have a life together. That is the reality of marriage. We make compromises to be with one another. Maybe you like a house that's spick and span, and your partner was a slob, and so you let the house be messy half the time, and now you get to have it clean. And you're starting to move into enjoying that. So these are okay to accept, these contemplations, your curiosity about life. So now let's move on to stage number 3. You're going to see differences in your behavior. Now, it's not just, now you're not just thinking about it or dreaming about the possibilities, the what ifs. You've kind of accepted or allowed yourself to have some dreams or some possibilities, some appreciations for things. And also realize that because you have those doesn't mean you love them any less. Doesn't mean that you're glad they're gone. Doesn't mean that you wouldn't have given anything to have them back. But in this stage, you are now moving into this place of, I'm doing these things now, not because they died. Not because they died. Or they had to die for me to do this. No. But since they died. Since this was something completely outside of your control, even if you blame yourself, and that's another video. I highly recommend David Kessler's book, The Sixth Stage of Grief, Finding Meaning. Fantastic book. My clients say it's so good, they threw their other books on grief away. Highly recommend it. Go get it right now. I'll put a link below to it. And I also put a link below to the other book I mentioned. So you're beginning to have new behaviors. So you're actually picking up the phone and calling that old friend. You're going on a lunch date with the girls. You're going out to the racetrack, which you haven't done since you were 19 years old, because you remember you used to love that. You book a trip, a hunting trip to Alaska. See, I'm promoting Alaska because this is where I live. You book a hunting trip to Alaska and you clean up your guns. You're going to do this. You book that trip to Ireland. You actually decide that you're ready to quit your job and become a florist, which is what you always dreamed of doing. These things are behavior changes. And those also can feel really scary because that's the next big step, right? You're not just looking over the edge and thinking, what if I jumped off with this bungee cord around my back, which I've done that, my bungee jump before. Scariest thing I ever did in my life. Oh my God. Screamed. I was in California. I think they heard me all the way back in Alaska screaming, but I was safe. So you're looking down into this thing that you feel like this is maybe going to be the end of me if I do this. And here's the thing. It is. When you start making behavior changes, it is very difficult because that is yet another stage and level of acceptance that they're gone. Because now you're going to Ireland without them. And you know if they'd been alive, you probably wouldn't have gone. You know your wife would have never let you take a hunting trip in Alaska because she didn't like guns. You would have never met up with that old friend for coffee because you'd have been too busy doing the things in your life that you normally did. And so they can be painful, so don't expect them to just be all joyful and happy and like, haha, great, I get to go do this. just recognize that these are both going to exist together, the pain of moving forward and the joy of doing it. And so in this place, it's important to accept that they're both going to be there and to acknowledge them. But don't allow the pain to squash the joy, because you're still here. Your life is meant to be lived because you're in it. And you have a responsibility now, not only to yourself, but if it helps, a responsibility to your loved one to keep on living. And if you can't do it for yourself at first, you do it for them. And eventually you start to do it for you too. You don't stop living because they can't live it with you. For whatever reason. And I don't know, and I'm not going to tell you it's God's great plan or anything like that. But since this happened, you come back, and when you're ready, you step into the action stage. You start to change the behavior. Okay? So now you've taken a step out. You've made a trip plan to Ireland. You've booked your hunting, you've polished off your guns, you're starting into this behavior change, and now you're following through with it, okay? So now you're actually in Alaska. You're hunting big game. You got the getting moose, and you're gonna go for a grizzly bear. You're gonna check out the caribou. You're fishing on the big river. You're over there eating bangers and mash in the UK. Something is actionably different in your life, and you're doing it. And now you're back from those trips. You've gotten a new job. You've made a new friend. You've rekindled an old romance. Now you're in. You're in it to win it. So now you're in this stage that we would refer to as maintenance. Okay, so you're continuing to own the change in your life. Now, maybe you feel like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? I just sold my house. I sold everything that I own, and I bought a condo on the beach. And I hate the beach. What am I doing here? Maybe you moved to the beach because that was his dream. And when you get there, you realize it's not what you want. It doesn't fit into your life now without your partner there. And so maybe it feels like you made a mistake, and I want to say to you, no, you did not make a mistake. You have to begin to try out these different things in life, and it takes time to learn how to be this new person without your mate. And, I'll just share with you, it was my late husband and I's dream to move out of our small little community in rural Alaska, and we were going to move to a bigger city on the road system in Alaska. Now, where we lived, we were 750 air miles, no roads in or out. You could only access by air or sea, and 2 plane rides to get there, 1 small Cherokee pants pooping flight to get into the village. It was like, ugh. So we were going to move out of there, and we were going to move to a bigger town. And that was a town called Kenai on the road system. And we visited there. We looked at houses, lots of big plans, had a job lined up. And then before we could implement this change, my husband tragically died. And if you'd like to know about that story, you can find my welcome video on my YouTube channel. It goes more in detail about that and the other experiences I've had. But when he passed away, very suddenly and tragically, I didn't know what to do with myself. And so I moved to kind of be closer to some other people in Anchorage. I did move out of that community, and I just couldn't bear to be there without him. It was too painful. So I moved closer to other family members, and then that didn't work. And then I realized, hey, Kenai is still there. That was our dream. I could go to Kenai, and I can do this, and I can do that, and I can have all these things that he would have loved to have. And maybe I'll feel closer to him that way. I'll bring his four-wheeler with me. Maybe I'll build a smokehouse for fish. I'll be near a river. I could go fishing. And I got there, and within a year, I realized that four-wheeler is still sitting in my yard. His four-wheeler that he used to take hunting and fishing, drive out on the tundra and bring back a caribou. I could do that in rural Alaska. Just go out your back door and go hunting. That's nice. If that's a life you want to live, and that was a life we had together. But when I was on my own, it was no longer a life I could run like that without him. It was our dream, but there was no us anymore in a physical sense. So I had to find my me. And it wasn't building a smokehouse for fish, and it wasn't going fishing. It wasn't hunting and collecting guns, and it was something else. And I had to find my way with that. And it wasn't in Kenai. So I ended up moving back to the big city for different types of work and different experiences. And so my life went on. But I had to go there to Kenai to have that experience before I realized that this wasn't going to be my life anymore, because he wasn't there for it to be ours. So do you see what I'm saying? There's a you, and then there was an us for you and your spouse. A physical us. And so the stage now is for you to be able to move from the us and the we and into me. And so to ask yourself this question, when you're sitting feeling a little bit stuck, even if you've taken action and you're not sure it's the right one for you, you're in it, you bought the condo on the beach and you realize you don't like living on the beach. Where you want to live in the middle of Montana by a river. So that's what you want to do. And you realize that. And so then you make the change and you move to Montana and you go live by the river there, because this is what you want. And this is the hardest thing sometimes for widows to understand and to get around, is what they want. And so ask yourself this question. And this is my big piece of advice. It's going to be so helpful to you. And it's so simple. What do I feel? What do I feel? And what do I want? Okay. So what do you feel? I feel scared. I feel excited about a possibility. I'm worried. I am inspired to imagine living on a river in Montana. I feel like I don't enjoy living by the ocean. What do I want? I want big trees around me. I want to see bears and moose in my yard. I want to see snow. Okay, so start to identify what you feel and what you want. And this is going to help you to be able to make some decisions about things. It's not that simple. It's not that easy. I recognize that. I hear you. I just want you to know I do private consultations with people. I provide consultation and coaching. I also do psychotherapy for states that I am licensed in, which presently is only in Alaska and soon to be North Carolina. Otherwise, I can do coaching or consultation with people, and you're welcome to inquire about that. You can find a way to contact me below. And my website is www.sevillai.love. Sevillai.love. That is my website. I'll have a link below for you. Just you've got to know that whatever stage of change that you're in, that you will move through it eventually. Because you can have that fallback in the end and really, feel like you're going 10 steps back when you only took 2 steps forward. But don't worry. It's normal to start to make a change and then panic. Panic. Because we're afraid to let go. And that's all right. Okay? You just take a little step at a time. Every day, you make a little bit more progress. And if you have a down day or a down week where you're just crying and losing it and staring into the abyss again, it's all right. Just allow yourself to keep moving and know that this time is going to pass, because this is what grief does. Grief comes in waves. A big tidal wave. Take us down. Sand in your eyes and in your crack. in the beach. It's terrible. That's what it feels like. But it's worse than that, isn't it? It's worse than that. But it's a big tumble. And don't feel like you're going backwards, because you're not. This is just a wave of grief. And the further you move forward in this, okay, the further you move forward, the waves will come. The storm will subside in your life, and there'll still be waves, but they're going to be a little bit more gentle as time goes by. They're not always going to tackle you, but there will come a day where they're going to have some bad weather, and one might knock you out again in 3 or 4 years. I just had one today myself. Okay, so it happens, and it lasted about 5 minutes. 9 years ago, it would have lasted days. So don't worry. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. And you're going to find your purpose again. You're going to find a new purpose. The one you had before is complete, even if it doesn't feel complete. It ended, and so that means it's completed itself. And now your new job is to find your new way. So look for the spark of inspiration and possibility. Pay attention to your curiosity, because being here, baby, is one of your first few steps. And I'm honored that you've listened today. Take care of yourself.